Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the PlotCast. I'm your host, Nate Slater.
And I'm Chris Sandbrook, and today we're going to be reviewing Season 2 of Fallout.
That's right, folks. After about a year and a half to 2 years of waiting for this, it finally came out. This is our full review on it. So, needless to say, spoilers ahead. And I've never played the games before. So, really, the lore is what's kind of driving me to like this even more than what I did with the first season. Yeah, the lore was there, but I feel like this season dove more into different factions.
I, on the other hand, have played the video games, and I can imagine it's quite a different take that you get as someone who is absorbing the show and then learning, either clips online, memes, and other stuff, and you're starting to learn more about the lore versus someone like myself who has played the games for years, since high school, and it's like an experience, like most
Okay.
games. But I mean, this is large scale games that the lore is what sucks you in. The gameplay really helps. And I love that this is one of those shows that shows the gameplay in a sense. Um, but we are exploring now in the show a lot more factions, and getting so many rich details, from props to characters that are popping up, and of course the symbolism that we're seeing, representing each of the factions. It's starting to get lore rich, if you will.
And that's what I like about it. Aside from the story with Lucy McLean, Maximus, and the Ghoul, like just the lore that's out there that we're getting pieces here and there of things with the new factions like the NCR. I mean, it's not new to the gamers, but for me, like that's totally new.
Just as you're learning about the new factions, the gamers, the second we hear, not even hear, see a slight symbol that you're like, oh wait, are we jumping Enclave now? Oh, Enclave. We have that same feeling, only it's a rush of nostalgia on what we know. Obviously, now after this entire season has run its course, we know that it is relatively lore accurate, um, but at the time that we're seeing it for the first time, we don't know that it's going to be lore accurate. So we're prepared to learn.
Yeah.
And when we start seeing things that connect us back to the games, I mean, the fan service in this show is tremendous. And it's a whole lot of fun, especially with certain cameos, which we will get into. But for right now, let's kind of break down the season in general.
Coming off of where last season ended with the mini Moldiver rebellion going kind of wrong there, Brotherhood of Steel coming in, and then Lucy's father getting away, heading over to Vegas, it left us in a whole state of where do we go from here? I know you've played the games and you know all about like the Fallout New Vegas kind of thing, and I know nothing. So it was interesting to see the state of Vegas and what or how it played into this season because
Yeah, I will say the second that we saw New Vegas in its disrepair, I believe most New Vegas fans were like, oh, okay, what's happening here? Because that is not how we remember it, at least not initially. Um, and I know obviously they are incorporating it into the official game lore and giving it a position in the timeline. So we are also learning about what had happened at certain points.
Yeah, and definitely I know I've been following online, some people are saying that there's different endings you can have and one of the specific endings plays into the season for the most part, which I think it's cool. It's really cool that they decided, yes, this is a part of the game culture. This isn't like its own rewritten history or whatever. It's a part of the history, which I think is cool. It makes me want to actually play the Fallout games, although it's kind of would probably be daunting graphic wise. but I hear that they're remaking, I think, one of the games or something.
Number 3, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. That was my first introduction to the Fallout series. It is a whole lot of fun. I would like to think that the remaster may also incorporate some of the mods, the player-made mods, and because I believe they did that with Skyrim remaster that they did. That would be great because it adds a whole new element for people who have played the game. It gives us, something a little extra.
Yeah, and this is created by the same people who made Elder Scrolls, correct?
Yes. So Bethesda, they're known for a lot of things. Their biggest franchises or IPs, if you will, is the Elder Scrolls, the Fallout series. Most recently, they did Starfield, which did not do so well. Actually, there's a lot of really great games, one of which being Prey, among other really great classics at this point. But for Fallout specifically, they're just like Elder Scrolls. It's very lore heavy. Um, I think that's what they're very good at Bethesda, is creating a very lore-heavy, lived-in world,
Okay.
which, is great as a writer for a TV show, I'm sure, to be able to just pull from so much.
Yeah, and I believe the people who made the games have a hand in this too, so it's kinda like they're playing in their own sandbox as far as
Yeah.
a different medium, so I'm sure they're going to town with it. I
Yeah,
like
I
the fact.
believe Todd Howard is the executive producer. He
Okay,
is the CEO of Bethesda. It's doing really well. Obviously, as far as being lore accurate and whatnot, they're doing their best. I know there's going to be a lot of people nitpicking, but the problem with that is that the games don't exactly line up 100% themselves. They're constantly creating back lore to correct things in newer games, and then sometimes they forget about things, which is, it's something that happens to everyone. It's not a big deal. Some people will go nuts over it online, but we know how the online culture is.
yeah, when it comes to a franchise, nerds like to, get a little bit passionate about what they love, so I'm sure there's no shortage of naysayers out there,
Yeah,
nitpickers,
yeah.
so
Honestly, I will say this is one of the greatest TV shows from video games. Obviously, we had The Last of Us.
yeah,
Last of Us won awards. It's done really well. Second season, not so much. First
yeah.
season was phenomenal. I feel like with Fallout following right behind it, and doing even better in the second season, I feel like we're going to see a trend of TV shows from video games. I feel like video games used to be looked down upon and no one really cared. Like when they did the Tomb Raider movies with Angelina Jolie, they were just like, nah, whatever. We're just going to use some fun scenes and make sure that everyone can see her breasts. Now, I feel like people are taking it seriously. I mean, look at how just Tomb Raider has evolved with the more recent Tomb Raider movie. They took away the sexualization. Ironically, Walton Goggins was the bad guy in that movie.
I mean, and now they got a new one coming out with Sophie Turner as Laura Croft, which is interesting choice because coming out of Game of Thrones, she was a very meek character for most
Yeah.
of it, and then by the end of it, I can't really say she became badass, but she was more girl boss by the end of it.
She
Like,
did play Jean Grey. She doesn't come off as someone who can get dirty and
yeah.
gritty and take people on, in the mud kind of thing.
But
Uh,
based off of the recent, like, mini shorts they put out of her working out and stuff and her in the outfit, she actually looks like she could do a good job, which is
The
surprising.
the new revisualization of Lara Croft, I feel like has served the video game franchise much better. Because obviously
Yeah.
coming from the '90s video game era to now, where we like the more realism versus the fantasy,
Yeah.
um, which fun fact for those that don't know, Lara Croft was originally a man when they were creating the game, and they just messed up the code and got some girly curvature, so they decided to keep it and just change the character's face and name and made it more feminine. But now things are getting gritty, and that's what I like about it. And with these new shows really picking up and taking video games seriously, there is so many creative stories, there's such rich storytelling in video games.
Yeah.
And people who didn't grow up with video games or just looked at it as something that's childish, they're starting to see that that's not true anymore.
And I
Uh,
feel like a lot of the better stories over the past, forever now have come from video games because Hollywood itself is being recycled to death to where originality isn't really original anymore in Hollywood. So games have kind of pushed that envelope a bit. So they're looking towards different media for better stories. And it's working when you got the right uh people behind it. And I feel like Fallout's one of those examples. And this season, I know we haven't talked much about it yet, but we're getting into it. This season kind of shows that, if you have the right passion, the right people behind it, you can get people engaged and involved and feel like it what they grew up with is not being thrown in the garbage or just some joke like certain other properties that came out. But as far as this show is concerned, I really like the lore that they're putting into it. Now, I have questions. Like I said, it makes me want to go back and play the games. When the remake does come out, I will definitely play it because now I'm interested. And I mean, there's a whole bunch of creatures, that I don't know about. And apparently, from you and from what I've seen online, the vaults themselves, which apparently play a big thing in the games, aren't really that big in the show right now. The show is more
yeah.
about the surface. We hear a lot about the vaults, but what are the vaults really used for? Were they really just used for keeping people safe? Because what friggin' Lucy's father says is that the experiments was the surface. It was not the vaults. So that has me more interested because I was confused. I'm like, well, wait, why would you want to nuke the whole surface as an experiment? What's the experiment? Like that I don't understand, which I'm interested to find out more. Obviously we have different companies involved, Robco, Vault Tech, the Enclave, and all that kind of stuff. It makes me wonder, like, was it was this planned by just one person, one entity, or was it planned by several different entities? Which we kind of have that whole office scene where a representative from each place is kind of talking about what they have to offer and what they're gonna do. So is it a committee that's behind everything or what? And that's what we need to find out in the next season.
Yes. So obviously, a lot of video gamers already have an idea. We already know about the initial setup, uh, where you were just talking about the
Mhm.
groups of different representatives representing either companies or specific important peoples. In the end, everything is still run by Vault Tech when it comes to the vaults. They still have a hand in everything that's done, whether privacy is promised or not. That's one thing that you can always guarantee about Vault Tech is that they will ignore your privacy. They will always have a hand in something. They will not keep their promises. Um, the only people that they will stay honorable to is themselves, the people at the top. And honestly, I'm not even 100% convinced that the people that we see as the people at top are the people at top.
Which is
Um,
plays into Mr. House. He had his body double there, basically saying, "Hey, I'm Mr. House," and no, you're not. The
right.
house always wins. He has to have that backup, and that's the thing. Like based off of what we saw, it seemed like he had the contingencies in place, but he knew that something was off because when he ran his numbers, there's variables that are coming up kind of not right. They're like, the world's supposed to end on this date, but because of you, he's talking to Cooper Howard, the ghoul, it's been pushed back a week.
Robert House is very into the algorithm, very into numbers, very into being able to predict every outcome so that he can counter it. That's just the idea. Um, there's a lot behind it, though. I mean,
Okay.
one thing that you may not have really thought of is at the end, he has the core powering, at the very least, Lucky 38, but his signal was lost.
There
Remember,
isn't
they
a
walked in, it said signal lost. It does not make sense. There's going to be speculations. Now, it may just be a screensaver for him, something
yeah.
to confuse other people. Um, obviously, he did have also the remote Pip-Boy that he was attached to. I don't think that it would be something that he could only be attached to one device at a time. That doesn't make any sense.
I mean, well, they
Um,
did have an end credit scene, so
yeah,
that was kind of like, "Hmm." I mean, I think, like you said before plenty of times, the house always wins, so I think maybe the something else is being powered by that energy source that we don't know
right.
about.
Right, that energy source should be able to power all of Vegas. It doesn't though. Like when it lights up, it really only lights up the one tower. Um, so it does make me wonder exactly where the power is going. Also, I'm not entirely convinced the cold fusion is still in the same spot we saw it placed. It could have been moved. I mean, a lot happened off screen. Obviously, the bookcases were
Mhm.
supposedly closed to hide it, but we saw the ghoul put his gun in there. So it
Yeah.
would have had to have at least reopened for him to get his gun out. Um, and so, yeah, it's very possible it got removed, replaced, put somewhere else. Um, so whether it's even still there is still questionable. Robert House is going to be the wild card, I think.
Yes. I actually think, because 'cause I've looked up some theories, or not really theories, but because I don't know the games, they basically were saying the different types of endings and what, Mr. House, had to go through. Because in the show, he says, "Oh, I've been beaten to death with a crowbar, I've been," I think he said, "stabbed," and something else. I almost think that maybe all those did happen. I think that maybe he's cloned himself.
Okay.
That would be interesting if he had clones of himself, but his real, like, mind itself is in a matrix. Like, that's why we see him on
Okay.
the thing. So maybe he
I
has
would
other
like to
physical bodies.
yeah. I would like to think that if they were to bring him back to a physical body, that, they could use the actor for to act in, that they would bring in the Institute. They have not really done it yet. Some people think that they've seen hints towards it. The Institute is, again, another faction, most predominantly in Fallout 4, where they have synthetic bodies, synthetic people. Um, they're not quite robots. They're not quite cyborgs. It's something a little different. And I mean, I don't even know if the show is even going to touch that yet or where they want to go with that, but it would work if they were to do that because it would make sense for him to have that technology. It would also make sense for him to use that technology,
Yeah.
especially if he was to have multiple. Because the problem with clones is they're still squishy flesh balls
Yeah.
that
Well,
could be easily destroyed.
I also think the power source that he has could also be powering a new body form, like a giant robot mech kind of body, which would be interesting. I'm all for that. I thought about that while we were talking, like,
No,
that would
I
be
really
pretty
I really
cool.
don't. I think that I mean, it would be over the top, and that's absolutely how these shows work. Um, but as far as keeping things lore accurate, I don't think they would go that far. I don't think that the Lucky 38 is going to transform into a giant
Well, I'm not talking
uh
about that. I'm saying
Robco, but
maybe he has,
yeah.
like, a giant power armor that's, like, 3 times the size of a normal power armor that's in the
I
basement.
no doubt think that he would have a power armor that is specifically suited for himself, that would be likely bigger and crazier, but really the fusion cores that you get, they would power that, regardless. Maybe he'd need a lot more than one, to power something bigger, but I don't think that the cold fusion would be needed for that.
Yeah.
However, to move past him, he is still, in my opinion, the wild card
Yeah.
because he's been planning. He's the ultimate doomsday prepper.
Yeah.
Um, but to move past him and to discuss more, we have not necessarily a new player to the table with the Enclave because we have seen them in season one. We didn't necessarily know it was them, although players of the game would know because of certain drones that they use. But yes, it does come full circle with the first season, specifically with one of the early characters who gets decapitated, who is transporting said cold fusion. We learn that Lucy's father, Hank, was working for the Enclave the whole time, which is ironic, isn't it? Because the
Yeah.
ghoul steals the cold fusion from him to give to the Enclave, and he's working for the Enclave, so makes it kind of redundant, but
Yeah.
obviously makes sense for Cooper Howard to go through that process thinking he's doing the world a favor, which in turn just speeds up the apocalypse.
Well, I also think that Representative Diane Welsh, the congresswoman, I don't think she knew that the president,
No.
played by
Yeah.
Clancy Brown, was like necessarily the bad guy. That's the president of the United States. Why would he be bad? I like how it goes into espionage stuff there too.
Yeah, is one thing that they've been very good about making in the games is you're always going to have characters in each of the factions that are likable and that are a-holes.
Yeah.
So even when you think you're in a good faction, they're the good guys, and then you find a despicable person amongst them,
Yeah.
and the vice versa. You think you're joining this evil group, and then you find people that are so likable in there.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how this is shown. Is you have the Enclave, which is really just the American government at first, early stages of it. And you have such a likable, well-meaning person behind it.
Yeah.
And she stands for it. She vouches for the president, the whole nine. Um, so yeah, it's a good way for them to show how this works. I mean, the Brotherhood of Steel, we've seen the insides and outs, run by complete idiots,
Yeah.
a-holes, um, fighting amongst themselves, and then you have the people in there, the grunts, and you respect them. You see Maximus coming up, his friends, all just struggling to survive, doing what they think is right. They stand for what they believe the Brotherhood stands for.
Yeah.
And you're going to see that with the Enclave. I mean, we saw it even with the NCR. Um, you know, while yes, Lee was very driven to do the right thing, she had done plenty of atrocities herself. I mean, the fact that she alone was also in stasis and abusing certain, you know, things that she needed to do the things that she needed. Uh, you know, you also have characters that we started to like the two characters that were left behind that the ghoul runs into in season two that were the only ones left of the NCR in that
Yeah.
area.
And
They're very likable people.
and it's funny how one ended up being turned
Yeah,
into a mindless not
drone. Yeah,
drone, yeah, by, Lucy's father, which that's the other thing too. I mean, I'm gonna skip back for a second though, but I really did like how we got more of Maximus's backstory in this, and we saw how things were kinda going pretty good up top on the surface, and then they weren't anymore. We saw the nuke go off and, how his family was, "Stay in the fridge, don't come out." These people were on the verge of being fine.
yeah. That Fallout episode had plenty of Indiana Jones references. The fridge
Yes.
being one of them. We also had Area 51.
Yes, which we had the Ark of the Covenant show up, which I spotted right away. I'm like, "No way." It's funny how they had it in Area 51, which is also in Paul and obviously Indiana Jones. So I thought that was an awesome connection that they had there, and I called you and I said, "Watch out for this. You need to watch
Yeah,
out." It's one of those blink and you'll miss it kind of things. Such a good Easter egg. But I do like how Maximus kind of he's coming into his own. You can see that he is becoming more sure of himself, even though at certain points he's not sure. Like when Quintus kind of says, "What are you, a freaking idiot? You're just gonna kill people? You're a mindless idiot." When he goes with Kamal Nanjiamani's character and they go to where Thaddeus is, he's turning into something. He assumes it's a ghoul, but
it's not a ghoul.
yeah,
We don't even really know what it is yet. I'm sure the showrunners are happy at the suspense and the talking, um, but he's not a ghoul.
he's
And I
not.
knew that right off the bat in the first season when he was healing from pulling the arrow out of his neck.
Yeah,
We seen the ghoul bleed plenty.
yes.
It doesn't work like that.
He's too ghoul. He's too cool to be ghoul.
Yeah,
I mean,
it, it's funny how his character has developed too. I do like that there's so much uh difference from where he started to where he's at. He's so much more humble because he thinks he's a ghoul, but there's despite the fact that his arm just has fallen off,
I thought that
I
was weird.
believe there's going to be so much more power to him. Not to mention the fact that he leaves season 2 very rich.
Yeah, and I think he's probably gonna be another wild card. He's Maximus is probably gonna get into some trouble at some point, and then out of nowhere, he's just gonna have his final transformation, get into his final Frieza form, and save the day. I have a feeling that's gonna happen. But
Yes, exactly what it's going to be, I have no idea. I mean, there's speculations because his arm fell off that he's going to be a centaur. I really don't think so. Um, just because, I mean, A, he hasn't really lost his mind yet, so that's one thing. But there's just a whole lot to it, and I think the developers are, you know, working with the writers of the show and just kind of like either developing something new or going into something that's like deep hidden in the lore, you know?
okay, but I liked when he went there, uh, and then they're like talking, and then Nanjiamani's character is like, "Oh, all the normal people to one side, everybody else to the other side," and it's like, "Wow, this guy's really that prejudiced," and he was just gonna kill all the people who aren't human. And I liked how Maximus stood up for what he thought was right. And oops,
Yeah, I mean, it also built for some humor. I did
it
enjoy
did.
it. I think it was a little over the top
Yeah,
because Thaddeus knows how to act. He was a part of the Brotherhood
yeah.
already. Uh, that was the one thing that kind of took me aback. He should have known.
Yeah, I
Um,
even forgot for a bit because I haven't seen season 1 in so long. I'm like, "This guy looks familiar. Where's he from?" And then after, like, I put 2 and 2 together, I did think that was a little awkward. I think maybe it was just from the fact that, he's still mutating and feeling weird, and then he's
maybe.
in the power armor because he wasn't in the power armor ever before because he was
No,
a
but he knew
squire.
how it worked because he was a squire. That's
Yeah.
kind of the thing, right? Um, he was intimate with every square inch of a power armor.
How
So,
intimate.
well, when you got a spit shine, you got a spit shine.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, it's just one of those things that doesn't quite pan out probably the way the writers thought it would. But Maximus has developed really well. Actually, I think the one person who hasn't developed as much in this season would be Lucy. She was very focused on getting her father and handing him over to justice from the very start. While she did develop in the sense of learning who to trust versus not trust,
Yeah.
that was kind of her theme throughout it early on. She trusted that woman only to find the Legion and learning how they work, and then she decided to trust the Ghoul again and learned that that wasn't a thing
Yeah.
to do. So even after he constantly tells them you can't trust me,
I mean, I
but
will say by the end of it though, she wasn't as naive as she was from the
yes,
start, which, going to the whole thing with her father, she realized she had to help these people, and she knows that her dad is not transparent with her even when he's saying certain things. So she, uses the whole mind control type of device on him, or threatens to. And the one thing I like about it is that he uses it on himself, but the question is, did he really use it on himself?
Yeah. I mean, there's question now to since he used a different remote, does it do what she thinks it does? A, does it do that? B, is he just pretending? C, is it only temporary in the way that
Yeah.
he did it? So, it's there's a lot of questions to be answered for season 3 when it comes to Hank. I don't think they're done with him yet, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot more backstory, especially with his relationship with Stephanie. And now that we've learned that they are married, that came out of nowhere, and the fact that he is involved with the Enclave, which now by default means she is, especially how she left off in the vault, activating phase 2, which, as we've learned, is about forcing or um, exposing the people that live there to the forced evolutionary virus. And we have seen one super mutant so far, which I am happy to report is Ron Perlman. Those who saw the green guy, the giant green man in the robes, that is a super mutant. That is the result of genetic manipulation. It was originally intended to make super soldiers. Um, Not all versions of it went well. Some of them, people retained their humanity, some of them did not. They mutated in different ways. Um, but however they choose to kind of reveal this part of the story, it's obvious that Ron Perlman's character has maintained his humanity. And he's talking about gathering ghouls, super mutants, and having a revolution of their own based on how they're treated. So I'm assuming in the next season we're going to be seeing a lot more giant green men
Yeah,
or
we're
jolly green
probably
giants.
we're probably gonna have a lot of factions. Like Hank said, the real experiment is the surface. So
Yeah,
maybe they want to see how all these different factions fare out against each other to see what product actually is worth its weight in, I guess, gold, if you want to call it that, but
right.
in progress, I guess you could say. And the
The
other
one
thing,
thing that is important when it comes to the ghouls and the super mutants is their invulnerability to radiation. Um, that kind of plays a major part in the games, and I believe it will likely take a major plot point in the next season, if not later. But depending on how far they actually go with this show, but I do believe that that's kind of the goal there with them. Ron Perlman showing up is significant, and it is significant because he has been in most of the game, if not all of the games. He was the narrator for 1, 2, 3, and Tactics. Um, he was not the narrator, unfortunately, for number 4, which a lot of people were upset with. He did make a cameo as a news reporter.
hmm,
Um, and he was again the narrator for Fallout 76, which that's some people don't even consider that part of the franchise for many reasons.
but apparently it is.
It is. No, it absolutely is, especially now that they've really worked on it. But it was one of those games that when it came out, was in a very sorry state.
Yeah. And one last cameo, I guess you could call it, which I didn't realize until we were getting ready for this video. I know she looked familiar, but Stephanie's mother, the woman who was trying to help her cross the border, she is mostly famous from this little tiny movie, sci-fi movie. They did a few of them called Species. I don't know if you guys ever seen it, but yeah, I was like, this woman looks so familiar. And then when we were looking up the cast or whatever, I'm like, oh wow, that's who that was. She looks kind of different. Obviously she's older now, but I was like, wow, I would have not have guessed that's who that was. And the other thing I thought was funny too is that the guy who plays uh Mr. House is Justin Theroux, and he looks completely different from what he looked like in the new Beetlejuice movie. And I hated him. I was like, this guy's horrible actor. I take it back for the show. This show redeemed him. I'm glad that they gave him something more suited for him because him playing the weird,
Yeah, the
creepy
a-hole
kind of,
boyfriend,
yeah,
fiance,
it just
yeah.
didn't work for me. But I will say, if they ever decide to finally go forward with a BioShock TV series, I think Justin Theroux, based off his acting as Mr. House, would be a great Andrew Ryan.
Yeah, I agree. I believe they kind of quit the concept of it becoming a movie or TV show, although I'm sure it could be revisited with how famous BioShock is as
Yeah.
a video game. But yeah, he would absolutely make a great
Yeah.
Andrew Ryan.
Plus, BioShock kind of almost fits this kind of same dynamic as far as world building and stuff. It's kind of
And aesthetic
in
even.
that. Yeah, exactly. I think you get the right team together, like we talked before. If you get the right team, anything can happen. I think BioShock as a TV series would probably work a lot better. Don't shortchange it with a movie or anything. I think TV show's the way to go. We haven't really talked about the Ghoul too much, but his story was really more espionage, which I kind of liked because
Yes.
in the first season we didn't really see much like that about him. And this we see really how far he went down the rabbit hole. Because in the first season, it was just an actor trying to sell vaults, pretty much. And in this, we got another layer to him, and I feel like we need more of it. Where I got kind of confused is like when we see the beginning where the nuke goes off and he has the daughter and everything. Did that really happen based off of what we're seeing now?
Right, exactly.
So I was a little confused
There's going
there.
to be a lot of questions that need answers, sure.
Hmm.
One thing that I'm starting to question now that we've got to the end of the season, the beginning of the season, they were laying his wife out to be the sinister mind behind everything,
Yeah.
super evil, the reason the bombs went off. But by the end, they're making you question whether or not she hasn't even tried to stop it all. Because it definitely seems like the way that they ended it, that she may be against it.
Yeah. And the one thing that I knew right away that her and her daughter were not going to be in the stasis pods. I knew that, but I
Yeah,
did
oh
not.
yeah.
I thought either they were alive in that building somewhere or they were dead in those pods if they were in them. But no, they were actually, they took the advice and went to somewhere different as far as
Well,
we
I
know.
don't think necessarily they went somewhere different. I feel like we may be having kind of a crossover with the storyline of number four.
Okay.
Um, and those people who have played number four, it's the very beginning, um, where depending, I mean, you get to choose whether you're male or female, so it flips on your spouse, whether they're male or female. Um, but you have a kid together, and the kid gets stolen. Obviously, the significant other is found dead, and you have to go looking for the kid. I feel like they're just doing that with both of them, though, where he's going to try to start tracking them down. And I feel like they may be trying to push. And if they are, it will lead to the Institute,
Yeah.
which will be great to bring them into it. Not likely, since the games seem to be canon now. But it definitely feels like it was meant to be a callback to the
Okay.
game.
Well, I think they're going to Colorado. Isn't that where they're going? I can't remember.
Yes, that is where they're headed. It's obvious though that it was planted there, right?
Yeah.
Colorado sounds like a good idea. So she was there at some point,
Yeah, that's the
placing it
thing.
in her stasis pod. So whether she used the stasis pod, was awoken, and then left and went somewhere else, or left before the bombs dropped, it's unclear.
Yeah, and the main question is too is how does she know he's even still alive?
I don't know. That's something that we are just gonna have to watch to find out. Um, maybe she just assumed. I mean, she
Yeah.
did pay for a pod form.
Yep. So I mean, I think that she did survive. I don't know how long ago. I think maybe we're still not seeing the whole story between them. Maybe he did get irradiated and he met up with her at some point after the nuke went off, where he was specifically
No,
at.
just the way that he talked about it is that he hasn't seen his wife and child since the bombs dropped. Um, he initially alluded that they could have died from the bombs dropping, so I don't think necessarily they met up after.
Okay.
But there's still a lot more that we need to learn from their backstory. So there will definitely be more story in flashbacks between them.
Yeah, because the other thing too is we already know that the bombs have dropped several times. So it
Yeah.
depends on what time. So that's what I was getting at. Like what time of the bombs dropping, like 100 years ago, the 100 years before that kind of thing. It could be any time, especially with a ghoul who, can't die.
He
So
can die for sure, but as far as time is concerned, he's not worried too much.
yeah,
And
exactly.
radiation.
Yeah. So I liked everybody's story in this. I thought it was great. Lucy still needs a little bit more development, but that's fine. We got
Yeah.
another season coming. Speaking of the season, after talking about it, I'm gonna give it an 8.
An 8 from Nate.
Yes.
All right. I am going to give it a 9 for a couple of reasons. One, it's pretty. They did not spare expense when it came to CGI. As soon as I saw the death claws, obviously the first time we see the concept of the death claws is just a claw when he is in Canada. Or no, it was Alaska.
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure if they were going to show the full thing, and if they were, I assumed it would only be one, not as many as we did see. Now, typically, yes, you do not come across a pack of them, especially in the games. They're usually solitary. Um, but it was nice to see that they were going all out, showing us as much as we wanted to see. Um, and then on top of that, they weren't afraid to get lore heavy, which is another thing that's great. When you bring in something so lore heavy to a TV show and you're not just aiming at the video game demographic, you're trying to catch as many people as possible. Uh, it's usually dulled down. They usually, make changes so that, it's more suitable for a sit down, this is all you need. You don't need to play the games kind of
Yeah.
thing. I'm glad that they did not sucker themselves into that. That's
Yeah.
a trap that, only angers the fans and, even non initial fans. Like, if they just started watching the show, when they start hearing fans talk crap about it, they typically will fall off a lot
Yeah.
easier.
My only
Um,
real gripes with it is just the fact that I feel like the season, as opposed to the first season, it just raised too many questions. Like I felt like there was more questions than there was answers, and I agree
I
with
think
everything you
that's
said.
just because they are choosing not to show all of the factions right away, which would have been hard. I mean, if we saw groups of super mutants showing up, obviously there's different types of ghouls. I mean, first of all, you have to put the groups in categories too, because you have pre-war or pre apocalypse factions. And then you have the factions that developed afterwards, like the Legion and the Super Mutants and so on and so forth. Um, but then you have also New California Republic appeared
Yeah, and see,
afterwards. But then you also have Robco, Vault Tech, Enclave. All of these are groups that happened before. We're going to have a whole lot more.
yeah. Well, I
Uh,
do appreciate that they're taking their time because
yes.
it'd be too much at once. But like I said, I feel like there's been more questions than answers in this season. First of all, Norm, Lucy's brother, they were attacked by all these giant killer cockroaches. They attack everybody else but him. That makes no sense. I know
Yeah, I
there's
will
some theories
say
out
that,
there.
yeah, there is a level of plot armor during that scene specifically that angered me. For one, rad roaches don't act like that. They will attack the closest person, um, and they will just keep attacking till they're dead. So the fact that they all funneled into that room and none of them stayed behind, period, is nuts to me. With him there or not. And then on top of that, when they went in there and killed everyone, which I don't think they killed everyone, I'm pretty sure that the guy that was leading them is going to pop up again, or at least someone.
Okay.
I don't feel like they're all dead. But then the one character that was
The
nice
chick.
to him, the
Yeah.
chick, she survived, and she wasn't hidden under bodies or anything like
Yeah.
that. She was just in the middle of the room,
That's
and
the
they
other
were
thing.
just
I'm
like,
like,
"We'll just nibble and then we'll leave." And where did they go? They just
they
disappeared?
went back to the elevator? No, because the door was shut. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm like, eh. I mean, that's pretty much my biggest gripe with this show. I mean, pretty much I could have given it a 9, but I felt like the amount of questions that came from this season and almost no answers, it's great. I'd prefer that because, now I'm invested. I wanna see the next one. I wanna play the games. Maybe if I played the games too, it probably would have been a solid 9 for me, but I
Yeah.
was on the
I
fence.
think,
I think 8 is
that
perfect for me.
it is the attention to detail. And the reason I gave it a 9 is because I've played the games. And they don't just give you a story. They don't just give you the factions, give you the dialogue, and tell you to believe it. The details that are in it are that they're unnecessary. Sure, they don't have to be there, but the fact that they put in tiny little details, like when we see them eating food while they're in the middle of a gunfight, oh, they're healing, or and when they're using vats, the battle system that they use to slow down time and shoot, they even take scenes directly from the games, like when the sniper shows up at
Sniper.
the end, it's damn near a scene from the game. It's just the little details that keep the fans, the continual fans, coming back for more, going, yes, that was perfect, I loved it, I want to see more.
Yeah.
And I think that's really the only thing that bumped it down for me is plot armor.
Yeah.
There's just some certain scenes that you just like, either it could have been written better so that they survived, or they just shouldn't have done it
Yeah.
that way,
Like, even the
period.
part with Maximus at the end, he technically should have died. NCR just showed up at the right second,
I'm
so
okay with that.
me
That's,
too. Me too.
Deus Ex Machina that happens all the time in
Yeah.
movies and shows, which is ironic because it does fit the Machina portion, them having the suits. I'm okay with that because we kind of knew that someone was going to come and help. There was no way he was going to take them all on himself. I don't like that he got out of the suit though before they showed up, because that's just stupid on his part.
Yeah.
Unless he planned to legit run away, pretend to be dead in a giant tin can that will protect you, seemed like the better option.
Yeah. I just I just felt like, yeah, I'm gonna get out of the suit. Maybe he got out just so he could run, because the
Yeah,
suit.
but the fact that he got out, picked up the roulette as a
Yeah, I'm
shield,
like, what are you gonna
and
do with that?
now the pool cue is a weapon in the game, but there's
Oh,
no way you go after a death claw
death
with
call
that
with
thing.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it was just one of those things that you're like, okay, it's a little bit of a nostalgia thing for the gamers, but at the same time makes no sense because even the gamers are going, yeah, no, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
I saw that and I was just kinda like, "Really?" He's lucky they showed up in time, but what do you guys think? Are we right? Does it deserve an 8 and a 9, or does it deserve a 0 or a 5 or whatever? What do you guys think? Leave a comment down below. And folks, that's right. You have watched the latest episode of the Plotcast here on Plot Hole Productions. If you wanna check us out, we're on Instagram, Spotify, YouTube. Uh, and come on, like and subscribe if you haven't already. It's the only way you're going to keep up to date with all things Plot Hole Productions. So, with that said, I'm your host, Nate Slater,
And I'm Chris Sandbrook, and we'll catch you
in
in the
the
void.
void.